Can't wait to drive up and down Albuquerque as many times as I do.
Good evening, and good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to what is the date today? 28th. It's November 28th, 2018 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, again, good evening. Dr. Jetty will not be with us this evening. Unfortunately, he had a death in the family, so he is away in New York. And Michelle Flynn is not with us either. She's home ill, so it's a smaller group this evening. I don't believe we have any revisions to the agenda. So we'll go to summary of non-public actions from November 14th, 2018. Mr. Myers made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of October 20th, 2018. Mr. Burke second. The motion carried 5-0. Mr. Myers made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of October 24th, 2018. Mr. Burke second. Motion carried 5-0. So with that, we'll go into presentations and recognitions. So we have three individuals with us this evening that I'd like to recognize. We have Tom Morris, Darcy Donahue, and Sean Donahue.
Andrew Byrne.
I'm sorry?
Andrew Byrne.
I'm sorry, yes. Which one? Who's new? Drew?
Drew Tracy.
These individuals are coaches and mentors for the CHS robotics program. The robotics membership has increased. Students are engaged and motivated for competitions, and the coaches and mentors have made great strides in developing the robotics program at CHS. So I'd like to commend all of you. Bill, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add.
I did. I wrote a little blurb earlier, and I would like to read it if I might.
Absolutely.
In the past 2 years, under the direction of lead advisor Tom Morris and former parent volunteers and newly hired co-advisors Darcy and Sean Donahue, the FIRST robotics program, the CHS, has been in the process of transforming themselves into one of the more collaborative and engaged robotics programs in New Hampshire. Certainly, they've supported their own children in this program, but their dedication extends to all of the students participating as they lead them forward. They are a very dedicated group of advisors with backgrounds in engineering, manufacturing, and business management that has provided incredible support for our students. They've also reached out to other community members within and outside CHS seeking support and mentoring. They've provided opportunities for members of the team to meet with leading engineers working with FIRST in the Northeast for collaboration and inspiration. They have created a more organized and forward-thinking group of students, particularly in the business-like manner in which they run their activities and seek additional support with local and regional businesses. The advisors are also taking the lead for utilizing FIRST robotics activities and programming and coordinating with CHS staff as a means of providing extended learning opportunities and additional elective credits students can earn at CHS. We really appreciate Tom, Darcy, and Sean for all the hard work they're doing in support of our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, unfortunately, I do not have your certificate because Michelle was out, but I do have a pin for all three of you.
Well, why don't we do
We'll do it
this?
after.
We'll do it after.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Brian, you want to? Yes.
Well, Drew, come up here.
Come on, Drew, you're the future. Yeah, we're gonna get them ready for Eden. We got Eden next year. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You get us all.
Want to go outside?
I know.
I'm not.
Everybody suck it in, come on.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
That's true.
Thank you.
So along with that, this evening, we have the CHS Robotics Handbook that I know is looking for approval, but I'm certain the board may have some questions. So and I'm glad Bill's here also because I got a few questions as far as policy or how things work with robotics, which seems a little bit different than some things. So I'm going to open up to the board and see if anyone has any questions on the booklet. No one?
I had one. I'm trying to find where it was.
No, I read most of it. No.
I didn't have it on my, is it on the agenda
Mhm.
homepage? Oh, it wasn't the other day. I thought it would be fine.
Bill, my only question, I'm trying to find it, about, I think it was team participation for grades.
Yeah.
Was, we don't have any guidelines like NHIA to follow, so it just seemed a little,
There is a co-curricular
okay,
eligibility, which follows the NHIA eligibility at Campbell, okay? They are actually entitled, any club or organization can have more rigorous and more strict expectations than the Campbell High School ones,
okay.
okay?
I believe they have to maintain a C average, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can't find, I had it and I can't find it again.
Now, while you're looking for that, so Bill, I don't know if you want to just come up and just make sure that everyone can hear you at home. If there are any questions or
Page 4. I was too far back, I'm sorry.
So, I mean, it is quite extensive in reading through it. I mean, there's quite a bit to it. But a couple of things jumped out at me, and I'm just going to try to get clarification from Dr. Jetty afterwards also. The first was the work that's done. Are the coaches, are you with them all the time, like Saturdays and Sundays?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that was a concern with Destination Imagination, that was part of the situation where if we had a stipend position, that person wouldn't have been available. So I just want to make certain that there was coverage while you're doing that.
Yes, and that's, it's nice too, having three advisors to
Yeah.
the program. We actually split it up. Tom's the lead advisor, and then Darcy and Sean are the co-advisors with him. So it provides the opportunity for all of them to have access to the building. So if Tom's not available, Darcy or Sean can be in there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the challenge was with parent volunteers, we couldn't provide them keys and the access to the building.
Right.
So this makes that available.
So it's all done at the high school?
All done at the high school.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I know they also record time spent at home. Did I not read that in here? That
The kids do that.
Yes, there are some instances where students may be invited to other teams. Part of FIRST really encourages alliances with other teams and other area students. And so very often teams will get together because one team may have a machine or a tool that another team doesn't have. So smaller groups may get together, and usually one or two mentors would go on those things. Or if a company were to open up the opportunity for students to go down and use some of their equipment, then those arrangements would be.
Another good example of that would be, I think it's on January 6th this year after the kickoff, and it is announced with FIRST. One of the teams in Alton, 319, is going to have, they've got a lot of experience doing this. They've got over 20 years with FRC. So they open it up to anybody in the Northeast, any of the teams that want to go up there and learn how to strategically plan for this game this year, because the game changes every single year and there's always a new challenge.
Yeah.
So they invite other teams to come up. So I think that's one of the things that we were actually talking about for that Sunday. Well, so
The other piece of that work at home where they can assign their time is there are different groups and organizations that Chief Delphi is
it's a forum.
a forum where a lot of information is shared. And so doing research and work on the forum counts towards the robotics hours. If they're doing work outside of hours, for example, Demi Dion right now is working very closely with the guidance department to set up the core curricular pieces of data that they need to be able to make the ELOs available to the team. So she's been able to log a tremendous amount of time for that. some of our off-season demos, where we spoke at the, or did our demonstration at the Entrepreneur of the Year Award banquet last spring. They're able to log that time out. Some of the county fairs and other things that we did over the summer, they're able to count those hours as well. So there's a lot of things that are outside of the physical building that are part of their logged hours, if you will.
So I also noticed that in the volunteer part, that they help other organizations. Did they get involved with GMS and LMS also as far as their robotics teams?
Yes. Some of the team members volunteer with the FLL Junior, and we have a few more that do the volunteering with the FLL team. We're hoping to build that a little bit more in the years to come. This year was focused more on getting our team together, but we really want to start expanding the support of the feeder teams that come into it. We're also working on a fundraising initiative with all of the robotics teams in town, including Destination Imagination, for creating a Litchfield robot town sweatshirt as a fundraising opportunity and as a collaborative way to support all of the robotics teams in town. We're one of the only districts in New Hampshire that actually has a robotics team in every school. So
It's grown quite a bit over the several years. I remember like being on PTO talking about robotics and then watching it grow, and it's how it LMS and traveled down and traveled back up. So it's fantastic.
And one of the key pieces of FIRST is to foster the inspiration and recognition of science and technology. That's what the name stands for. And so supporting other teams, growing other teams, mentoring other teams is a huge part of that. But we also do a lot of volunteer work for the community as well. And our team for the last few years has volunteered at a shelter down in Manchester around Thanksgiving to help do some community outreach as well.
So then my other question I have is transportation, because it just seems, and Bill, you might be able to help here, because and again, I'm going to talk to Dr. Jetty about it afterwards. It just seems to be a little bit out of what we normally do.
There are coming in and out of the building and transporting back and forth. There's like a practice at odd hours for basketball and those other things. The challenge is those other opportunities to go elsewhere. Those are sort of not expectations of the team. They don't have to do those things. They don't have to go to those things. So it's not as if they are required to be there. The challenge is, do we have to provide transportation if they go to those things?
Right.
And that's something I'm not entirely certain.
Yeah, and the other thing that jumped out at me that, greatly concerned me, because I'm thinking of like the ski club when we had the issues where it was outside of school hours, it was, Friday evenings, and they were allowed to fill out the form as far as taking their child from the mountain.
Yes,
They couldn't take anyone else.
correct. We've had that conversation about not allowing parents to transport other children.
Right.
But we also, when they go to official FIRST events, it's school transportation transporting them to those events. So when they go to the competition, it's buses, and then they have a truck and a trailer that brings the robot along. Yep. Okay.
So
there's that.
the
piece
regular,
to it.
okay.
Yeah.
So when do they, because the other part, as far as where it talks about transportation, it even says carpooling.
Yes. That was a concern that I had and discussed with them.
Right, so the carpool piece was added, the students wanted to be able to expand the parents' awareness that if a kid can't get to and from school, that there are other parents or other ways to get them to the school
Right.
for practice.
So it's like
FIRST has
basketball
very
team.
strict guidelines that,
So it's like it's like a student leaves school, goes home, and then comes
Then
back.
has to come back to school.
That's the carpool.
It's like going to basketball practice, the three
Or
guys get
soccer
together and go
practice
to
when a bunch of
basketball.
kids jump in a car.
Correct, yes.
So it's not like carpooling to a
It's not
competition.
carpooling.
no, and FIRST has very strict rules that no one under 18 is allowed to drive.
Drive
anywhere.
another student.
So,
Right, so
so that's very strict, and any of the competitions are very formatted that way.
Yeah.
Certainly, there's always trying to finagle and figure things out when we have a volunteer situation or a demonstration. or an opportunity to go to to an event, that we don't necessarily want to make mandatory, where we would have to spend the money for the bus. It gets a little bit dicey on how we could balance that, to allow everybody the opportunity to go if their parents work and can't get them to, a high priority demonstration.
So how does it work now then? They self-transport? We transport them?
They
They find
figure it
their
out
way.
on their own
Yeah.
how to get there.
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
is why the kids wanted to put carpooling into the handbook, just to trigger to parents that there are ways to figure it out with other parents or whatever. But
Right, but
it's very loose because we don't have the guidance to support them.
in reading the policy too, the meaning like outside of school hours.
Yep.
That I don't know, it's kind of like gray as far as the transportation department. That's what
Yep.
I'm talking to Dr. Jetty about.
Yep.
Because we don't allow it in other sports. We don't allow like a football player to drive himself on a Saturday up to a game.
Right. Oh, right, right. And we wouldn't allow them to go to an actual competition,
Yes.
but that's the real question is, for example, there was a demonstration you did back, was that in the spring?
We
Or,
did a lot of them.
Okay.
We did some in the spring, we did 2 over the summer, and we did 1 in the fall.
right.
All in town?
No.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, no, right, right.
They've been all over the place.
But the kids aren't required to attend. They don't have to go. It's not as if we're saying this whole entire organization has to be here at the mall, St. Salem, or whatever the case may be. It's a voluntary thing with you guys showing up, and if kids are showing up and they're there, they get to do the demonstration and stuff.
We had, one example would be, we were out in Epping at the county fair, and I was there with the robot and that, sitting in the tent for the day, but, and literally the kids are kind of rolling in and rolling out, some, the parents would drop them off for a few hours, pick them back up, and off they go, and, another group come in, and,
So it wasn't like an organized
no,
event that they had to come, or just you were expected to come. They just
Right,
showed up.
we open it up as a volunteer opportunity for the team, that the team is going to be there, meaning the robot and 1 or more mentors. And we encourage the kids to try to get there or find ways to get there.
And in years past, when we've done events that, let's say, bring the kids into an engineering company, that's been through bus, using bus transportation, so versions of bus transportation.
So the one thing I would suggest, then, as far as the section does say carpooling,
Yep.
is give clarification as far as what you mean by carpooling in there.
So what page was that on, Darcy?
On page 8.
Page 8? Okay,
So I understand what you're saying. Because I think every sport, like after school, when they go home first, and 3, 4
meet up,
boys or
with-
girls are together, and
yeah.
Yeah.
Or they go to a local basketball
Yeah.
playground and shoot hoops and stuff like that.
it's just, reading, that's the first thing I thought was, wow, the carpooling, to an
Yeah.
event.
Yeah, no,
No, none of this is to an event. It's the off-season things and back and forth to practice.
the other thing with the events is that when we do an actual event where, at a competition, where it's gonna count towards points, we wanna make sure everybody's there, so that means everybody goes on the bus together and goes together,
Excellent.
and works as a team at that point, so.
How many students are on this team?
We have 19
19.
registered, 19 registered right now.
Is that large?
Well,
Larger than most of the time for us.
Yeah.
For us,
For
it's
us?
it's a big team.
Seems,
yeah, I mean,
Most
it's,
of the other teams around New Hampshire, and around our area, are anywhere between 25 and 45 students.
Right.
Do you have the capacity to accept everybody who has the interest?
At this
Yeah.
time,
You can. Oh,
Space is always a concern. It's a pretty small
Yes.
room.
yes.
Sure.
Maybe the
It's-
size of
again,
this
well-
It's a little,
room.
it's a little longer than this.
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
longer than this,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's, I think, narrower.
excellent. They have to go through quite a bit to stay on the team too, as far as go look for sponsorships and
Mm-hmm.
volunteer work.
Yeah, there's a,
It's quite a bit that is involved with it.
which is
Year-round
why
commitment, too.
ELOs are important, because if you think about the programming, you think about the engineering, you think about the business component of this and those things, there's lots of opportunities for kids to develop some high-level skills in a lot of different areas. And we've seen that with the programming. There's no question at all about that. They've self-taught themselves numerous programs to make this robot work. And it seems kind of doing that independent of the classroom is exactly what ELOs are. So this is a nice way to provide some elective credit for kids who can meet the rigor of the competencies and the accountability piece in terms of their time.
I like the safety captain position.
I know, right?
That would be me.
It's a huge piece of first.
Yes,
The
it-
safety
yeah.
captain is amazing, and we actually won the safety award at Governor's Cup. So we were really proud of that.
Wow, that's great.
The
Live
the Live Free or Dies Governor's Cup Safety Award.
That's great.
That is awesome.
So it says no alcohol consumption or smoking. Is vaping considered part of smoking, or should that be called out separate?
It's considered, we consider that as part of smoking,
Yeah.
and we actually consider it as a drug infraction, not a tobacco infraction. Although most of your jewels have nicotine in them, but
So would that be covered with
but
this sentence?
those
then?
would be covered, yes.
And Bill, I did find the one question I had, it was minor, but just to alleviate them of any responsibility, it says it's the student's responsibility to notify a faculty advisor, mentor, or team leader if their grades are in jeopardy. Is that normal in the co-curricular?
Well, it's a little different in this situation
Yeah.
because typically you have a teacher within the school who's an advisor, who's
Okay.
talking with counselors, and we also post an eligibility list. Okay, but the other piece to that is because their requirements are a little more stringent, it's incumbent upon the students.
And I guess my question would be if a student was near an event and had a C minus, they're not held accountable if they don't tell them, right?
No,
It's-
no,
okay.
no, not at all.
But I'm
Just
certain,
the way it's,
probably guidance, I would assume would reach out to them.
yeah, it was more for them, the way it was worded, just to make
Right,
sure there's
yes.
no,
I
it
think it's no
doesn't
different
fall
than-
on them.
No different than an AD approaching a coach saying, listen, you have a student that,
Right.
not gonna be playing for a while.
Right.
Yeah, it's an accountability
Yeah.
issue because we want people to be focused on education and moving forward. And although this is important, their grades are really the most
Yeah.
important thing.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any other questions? All right. So like I said, the only thing I want to do is just make sure I have clarification with Dr. Jetty and policy as far as transportation.
Absolutely.
Best of luck this season if we don't see you.
What's that?
Best of luck.
We'll report back on them as well.
Yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
And so if we're done with the handbook, then we can move on. You have a proposal for a trip.
We do. So the combination of
Ruskin, I'm sorry, can you hear her okay? Can you come to the table? It'd probably be easier.
Sorry, you're on
So get a better
video
shot.
now.
They'll get a better shot for you on TV.
Come on, Darcy, you can do it.
Help promote the program.
Thank you very much.
So the culmination of the first competitions are to go to the district championship, which is usually held in Massachusetts. It was in Boston the last few years. And the winners of those and teams that also win other distinguished awards like a chairman's award or some other ways that you can get to Worlds is to go to the World Championship. The really cool thing about FIRST is that it is an international organization. So World Championships are the world is split into two groups, and half of the world goes to Houston and the other half of the world goes to Detroit. And the United States is kind of split in the middle. So half the US goes to Detroit and the other half goes to Houston. And we're in the districts that go to Detroit. So this has been a goal for our team for a couple of years. We actually won the wild card last year to go to Detroit, but we didn't have the paperwork and stuff in time. So this year we wanted to make sure that we had the paperwork in order and the plans in place so that we would be ready to say, yes, absolutely. We are currently on the wait list for Detroit. So we're very excited about it. We're hoping to make it on our own merit through an award or through winning champions. But the intention is that we are going to go.
Actually have, you may not be able to see, I wish I'd be able to, but it's the map that shows the division of of how it's split.
Oh,
And so
neat.
we'll be with the blue team, with the blue group. And it's approximately 400, a little over 400 teams from around the world will be at this event. And they'll be running 6 fields at any given time. So out of those 400, they'll be divided into 6 different groups, and all of them will be competing next to each other at the exact same time. And so there's a lot going on. It's to get from the area where they have all the pits and they keep their tools and that to the field is a 15-minute walk. To give you the idea of the scope of this and the amount of people that are there. It's very impressive events, and it's broadcast live around the world continuously. So if you set up your computer and open up the browser page, you can see all 6 events at the exact same time going on, and it's very fascinating.
Yeah. And then the winners of the 6 fields all compete together into the finals, which is on the Einstein Field. And the Einstein Field is in Ford Stadium. So we leave from the arena where we've been for those 3 days or 4 days of the qualifying matches and the semifinals, and everybody moves over to Ford Stadium where they have the final events. So it's a massive undertaking, but such a great experience.
They also have the finals at that same time for First Tech Challenge, which we don't have here in town, but I think they also have the FLL, First Lego League.
The First Lego League. So there's a lot of things going on. There's tech companies that have demonstrations and different things that are there. There's colleges, of course, always trying to get kids to go. So it's a huge, amazing opportunity for the kids to participate.
Especially meet and interact with teams from around the country and around the world. So.
It's pretty fascinating. Have you had any discussions with other schools? I see that you can group together on a bus.
Yes. So part of the district that we're in is run through NH First. They run the district of New England, Vermont, and Massachusetts. Can't remember. But anyway, our district through NH First helps to coordinate. They have buses that they work with, and they help to match teams together to defray the costs of the buses out there or different travel. First has blocks of rooms set up and resources set up that get released, I think in December or January,
Yes.
that they release them all so that you can be in a close place, that they're vetted by the company, so that they're a much reduced rate. But yes, we work with other teams through those organizations, and we've also networked with them individually to work at ways to share costs.
So I noticed your number of students is 8 to 18. Is 8 like a minimum you have to have, or?
No, there's no minimum. 4, I think, is the minimum because you need a drive team. But we recognize that not everyone will be able to go during April vacation, so a lot of people travel. So we put a ballpark of, okay, who's going to go if we could go, and we raise their hand. And then those that were, I'm not sure, I think so, I want to go, but I don't know. And then, of course, there's the break point depending on how much we can get from corporate sponsorships and funding and fundraising, and how much would be the parent responsibility. Could also be a break point of who could go or couldn't go. So our goal, most of the teams that we've worked with over the last few years who have bigger teams cap their group at 20, that they take 20 kids with them to Worlds. We would love to take 20 kids because that would be our whole team. So we're actively looking at trying to get some corporate sponsorships so that we can just take everybody and have no out-of-pocket costs for the parents. But we're working on it.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions?
Are there entry fees in addition to the transportation, meals, and housing?
Yes, there is a $5,000 entry fee, of which we already have $2,500 raised through a corporate sponsorship through First and one of our mentors. So that cost is also defrayed, but it's part of our operating costs that we look at the beginning of every year.
So I see that you list as far as funding is through grants and student activities and parent contributions. So have you already started the process? I'm certain you have of generating funds, because I mean, it is quite costly.
Yes,
And like you said, you want to bring it down as much as possible for the parents. So
right.
that's something that's just ongoing.
Yep, it's an ongoing thing that we do constantly. We're doing a phone and letter campaign right now that's generating some pretty good results. We're waiting to hear back from a few more people. We're still looking to get grants to help support it. We're fortunate this year that we are on the second year of a 2-year grant from the Department of Education, which we received last year for $25,000. And so a lot of that will be able to defray some of our operating costs so that the district money that we receive annually to support the program can be used to support some of that as well, because the Department of Education grant has eased up some of that burden of that operating money that we get.
Excellent.
And the kids have raised quite a bit of money in their student accounts. So we're in a good place right now.
I'm so impressed. Really. I'm really impressed. I used to watch you guys and wonder where all these kids are like ants in the school. That's awesome.
Something else that's interesting, so this will be our 9th year with the robotics program. And over the years, I've kept in touch with some of the students that have gone through, and we've graduated a good number of engineers at this point. I don't know the total number. But
I think you have 3 more at home.
Yeah.
But, one got in touch with me about a year ago or so, and the real interesting thing is that because of the robotics program, he went into engineering. As part of engineering, he designed a medical device that was used to save a life. So nice little story there.
Yeah,
It's great. I think it's a great program.
I got goosebumps.
it is. There's nothing like it.
So we're looking for a motion for approval of the proposal for the trip.
So none of this comes from the school board budget. It's all
It's all self-raised by the team.
Holy moly, that's a lot of fundraising. Good for you.
And
Boy.
it's also on school vacation week too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of dedication.
Make a motion to approve the trip. Is that what?
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the first robotics competition world championship in Detroit.
A second.
Do I say where it is? Or?
Yeah, it's Detroit. It's for the next 2 years. They haven't released 2021 yet.
So we have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good luck.
So I have like just one last question. So is that the last step, or if you win in Detroit, you go anywhere else? I know it's Worlds, but
That's a good question. That is a good question.
They used to have.
You could have what's known as the Festival of Champions, where they take the champion teams from the different championships around. And you used to bring them to New Hampshire and have that, but they've done away with that, and they've gone with just the 2 Worlds. And then there are the teams that really do well at Worlds get invitationals to different championship competitions around the country.
so you know the winner doesn't get to go against the winner in Houston.
But that's what they used to with the Festival of Champions. So the
Yeah.
Houston team would
That's
battle the.
in Manchester.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you.
You guys are doing a great job. That brings us to correspondence. The superintendent's not here, so we do not have any superintendent
I have a
comments.
couple things.
Do you have something from him?
Yeah, he had sent along I'll pass around this folder. There's a brochure from the New Hampshire Association of Special Education Administrators for their annual conference. In particular, there's a presentation regarding building resilient communities. So he wanted to send this around, have the board take a look at it. If there's any interest of the board to to attend
Okay.
these presentations at this conference.
Is
I just
Devin
go with
going?
the, what's
Is
that?
Devin going to that?
I'm sure she's,
Does he want one of us to go?
it's an
If you're
invitation
interested.
if you're interested.
Oh, I'll go. You sign me right up.
Food service meal counts. We received an email from Lauren Crowley, the food service director, right before Thanksgiving. She is reporting to us that there's a 3,300 reimbursable meal increase in the district so far. So things seem to be moving in the right direction.
Wow.
In terms of,
What does that mean? Reimbursable meal? Is that
you-
for subsidized, like
No, you,
those who,
when you serve a meal at the school district level, you can submit to the National School Lunch Program for reimbursement for part of that meal. So they have
oh,
three
okay, if it meets all
categories.
their guidelines?
Yep. So we have three categories of it. There's free,
He did before.
Yeah.
free,
She's
reduced
so-
price, and full price meals.
Yeah.
Obviously, our district we're only about 5% free and reduced. The majority of those meals are fully
Mm-hmm.
priced meals. So it seems to be at this point a move in the right direction. We should receive more federal funding for our program. So
Is it only the free and reduced that we get the reimbursement for?
it
Or
depends
is
on
it
how it depends on
all
how
of it?
much. It's a reduced rate for fully priced. You still get
I see.
you still get a reimbursement for that
So you-
as well.
It's like an incentive to meet all the requirements. Okay, got it.
So that was good news coming out of the food service department. She was very excited to see.
Is
those
that
numbers.
more than in the past or?
Yeah, I mean, it's the food service staff's being more cognizant of what a reimbursable meal is made up of,
Oh,
and making sure that those offerings are being served to the kids.
So just to clarify, is that like 3,300 above last year, or is that?
oh, goodness.
Wow.
Oh, that's above last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Step in the right direction.
Great.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So that brings community forum. Yeah, take a look at that. Pass it back. Yes. it is.
And your address.
Amy Goldstein, One Spice Bush Circle. Are you talking about the naming policy? I didn't see it on the,
We are not,
okay.
not this evening.
I'll just say my piece and you guys can
Sorry
chew
about
on it
that.
for when you.
It was on the agenda
decide
at
to
one
talk.
point.
It was, but then there's still work to be done as far as with the policy. So
Yeah.
Okay. I've attended numerous school board meetings over the past 3+ years that my daughter has been a student here. I found last week's meeting to be most alarming and jaw-dropping on a number of points and on a number of statements made. When I speak in the moment at the meetings, I'm usually so flustered and floored that I don't feel like I can make my points clearly. So what follows is accumulation of frustrations, inconsistencies, and hypocrisies I've encountered through my attendance at these meetings. While I was shocked at an educational board who's supposed to support the needs of all learners, questioning the validity of cultural learning experience in a field trip, and aghast at the low proficiency ratings on the school's testing results, I would like to focus on the frustration created by the board following the request to name the auditorium after Mr. Martin. Some background. I have 3 children. I have been a sports mom for many years. My children have combined to make me a soccer mom, basketball mom, softball mom, football mom, baseball mom, and lacrosse mom at all levels, including rec, travel, AAU, Legion, and high school. I understand the importance of sports in town and in school and the benefits sports can bring to kids. Now, I know that I'm known as the crazy performing arts mom. It is not because of any aptitude or proficiency in that venue on my own, but because I've been blessed with a child extraordinarily gifted in this area and have found it necessary to advocate over and over on her behalf. Of course, everyone likes to say they are supporters of the arts, but from personal experience, I can tell you there's a stark difference in the support between athletics and arts in this town, in the schools, and on this board. Be it perceived or real, purposeful or subconsciously, this comes through, and it is these inconsistencies between the treatment of the subgroups that leaves me most frustrated. I was at the meetings where teachers, students, and community members stood before the board and begged to save academic programming and teaching hours. Due to budget concerns, an entire foreign language program was removed, And although music teaching hours were maintained, what it got us was a part-time music teacher at the middle school that I would argue, based on state of New Hampshire Department of Ed guidelines, should have been in place for the 5 years prior to provide continuous music ed in grades K through 12. Now, we have no full-time band teacher at the middle school or the high school. This year, Mrs. Late is down to only one high school class, and a district music teacher will be supervising the school store next semester, while music classes have been cut. And that was considered a win for the Performing Arts Department. Then only a month or two later, a representative of La Crosse arrives at a meeting, does not even have to unfold the prepared statement he brought before he's given the courtesy of immediate discussion, a vote, and approval of adding varsity lacrosse to the budget. For whatever reason that occurred, it looks bad. More recently, I was at a meeting where a member of the boosters addressed this very board asking if a company put money toward the press box, could the name of the company then be placed on it? Again, there was no delay in discussion, no stop for a policy review. The amount which it would require was discussed at that same meeting, and a vote was taken, and unanimous support was given. Now, when approached by the Performing Arts Department to request the CHS Auditorium be named in honor of a man who gave his heart and soul to the school and this community at a meeting, they were told there will be no discussion at that meeting because one board member was absent. At the next meeting, we're told a policy must be put in place before any more discussion can occur or for the process to be moved forward. At that same meeting, I heard both the chair and the superintendent state that a policy could be overridden by the board if necessary, as all policies could be. If that's the case, why can't a discussion and vote be brought forth on this particular request while you continue to develop your policies going forward? I have heard both publicly and privately from a majority of board members that they think Mr. Martin should qualify for such an honor. Why then must obstacles and hard feelings be created to those who knew him best and wished to honor him in a timely manner? Of course, if there was a 3-year waiting period, those who had Mr. Martin as a teacher, mentor, friend, or colleague would still be eager to honor him. But availability becomes more and more of an issue with each passing year. The last class of students Mr. Martin taught are now juniors. Many will be moving on to college or moving away to join the workforce. Why wouldn't we want to maximize the numbers able to attend such a ceremony easily? Every person I have discussed the issue with outside of this room has used the same phrase. That's a no-brainer. Why then has it become such a struggle? What makes this all the more frustrating, personally, is that I chose this school for my daughter. My other 2 children attended private school, and we chose Campbell for Rachel in large part due to the presence of Mr. Martin and the program he had created. Now I'm kicking myself. She's now teaching herself AP Music Theory in her spare time because apparently that's the one AP class that can be cut due to low enrollment. My new mantra is deep breaths and chants of almost done, but I feel sorry for the other kids to follow who are like Rachel, but who do not have a choice of where to go. If the board is concerned that people won't know who Mr. Martin is as time passes, that's what history and legacies are all about. Don't know who Griffin is, or Campbell, or Martin? Look them up. Learn about the history and the contributions of those who created where you now find yourself. If we're worried that now everyone will want to name rooms after people, make a list of all the staff who were here when the doors of Campbell first opened, who gave 17 years of dedication to the students of the school until retirement, and who built the program from the ground up, and my guess is the list of those who qualify will be quite short. We all know that Phil Martin is deserving of such an honor. I hope you will all consider moving forward on this matter without delay. And I'm sure we'll see you all at the holiday concert on December 4th to experience the legacy of what Mr. Martin created. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy, could I get a copy of that so I can make sure it goes in the minutes, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
I do some chicken scratch.
No. That'd be great. Thank you. Anyone else? That brings us to school board comments.
I have a question. December 4th is the Mr. Martin Christmas concert?
It's the typical holiday concert.
Okay.
There will be a tribute to Mr. Martin.
With his sons being there or,
His
yeah.
family is going to be there.
I get so confused with all.
Jill
the different
posted it
things.
on Facebook. I saw that.
Yeah, I was.
It's a holiday concert like they always have. They're just.
I work in another school, so all these concerts and things get mixed up in my head. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
The whole band portion is a tribute, you know.
it's all his
Bill's
favorite songs.
Really?
And the chorus is, Miss Pennington has invited alumni to come sing with the chorus for a combined choral piece that will be in honor of Mr. Martin as
Are
well.
they wearing Hawaiian shirts?
Oh, they should. But the soloist on that piece will be Sarah Evans, who is a Campbell alum, who is my daughter's voice teacher. And she's amazing.
She taught here for a while.
She did the after-school chorus program at the middle school for a little while, when Rachel was there.
Yeah, I remember.
She's awesome. We kept her.
So my comment is tomorrow evening at 7:00 in this room will be the budget meeting. And at that time, the budget committee will be looking at the total school budget and making recommendations or adjustments or cuts to that budget. So what I would do is encourage the public that if you have concerns or strong feelings about certain areas that may be cut, and things may not be, I have no idea until tomorrow. But again, I encourage you to come and you'd have an opportunity at that time, if need be, in public to voice your concerns. Anyone else? Minutes from November 14th are not ready as of yet, so we'll defer until our next meeting. So I'll bring us to the BA report.
So the written report that I provided has a couple things in it. First off is the FY20 budget update based on the November 14th meeting in the discussion of the class size policy regarding kindergarten. I've included in the budget going forward that fifth kindergarten teacher classroom and the para involved in that for staffing. So that brings the budget up a bit. I've included documents that show that increase in there. I've also noted that at this point, at the time of my report here, the class size policy is up for a second read tonight. So upon that approval, that will stay in there, and we'll go to the budget committee tomorrow night with that increased amount. Through review of my budget sheets, the analysis that I've done, there was a formula error in it that wasn't calculating my default correctly. So that has now been corrected. The default is now showing about within $275,000 of the recommended budget that we are bringing to the budget committee tomorrow night. The general fund budget is showing as a 2% increase. Default budget would be a 0.79% increase over FY19. I've completed preliminary revenue estimates and a tax rate estimate. This is based on the town administrator provided me with an estimated valuation for next year, which is $8 million more than last year. With these numbers, we are showing estimated tax increase of 72 cents per thousand, and for the recommended budget that we have, and 42 cents per thousand for the default budget. I do want to reiterate that there is a downshift in state revenue to the local taxpayer, where the stabilization grant side of adequacy funding is being reduced at a rate of 4% each year. That 4% ends up getting reallocated to the local taxpayer. We are now at 84% of the original stabilization funding that the state was giving. That started at $2.165 million. That has now been reduced. We're at 84% of that. That phase out of stabilization funding will continue over the next several years until that $2.1 million has been completely reallocated to the local taxpayer. So these are concerns that I think school boards are starting to bring forward to the state level, state legislature, that, you know, state funding really needs to be looked at and something needs to be done because it's really adding a burden to the local taxpayers.
So we've actually proposed a decrease in the expenditures in the budget, but because revenue's down, it actually shows as an increase.
Yeah, so we're going up in 2% of our $20 million budget. We're going up 2% for next year in our recommended budget. the tax rate, because of the shift in funding, the local tax rate is going to go up about 5 to 6%. So it's just showing that that reallocation of our revenue sources is going to continue to hurt local
Right.
taxpayers.
We're taking a larger
And-
share of the
Yeah,
burden.
and the, tax increases in our town aren't solely a function of our expenditures going up. There is the revenue side of it that needs to be recognized and get some information out about.
We talked at our budget work day about having our state
State,
reps
yep.
to a meeting, to have a community forum so we can talk.
And we had confirmation, I
this.
believe, from 2 of them.
Okay.
So then we have to change the date. And I'm not sure if our state senator has been accepted it yet. And I talked to Michelle today about also inviting the governor.
Governor, yeah. Thank you. Because I think that's important. And the more community members that we can have there to ask questions and
Yep.
be educated about why our taxes continue to go up. And then it's not irresponsible spending on our behalf.
It's difficult, like Corey said, when you're losing 4 or 5% a year.
Mhm.
And still trying to maintain,
Right.
the educational level that we are and as many courses available.
Mhm.
It gets harder and harder.
You can do an
Or it's
analysis.
more of a burden on the taxpayer.
You can do an analysis where you could actually level fund our budget dollar for dollar from year to year, and the taxes would still go up. Like it's to that point where when you're losing it from the state side, it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
I wanted to report also at the school board meeting on the 14th, you had given authorization to negotiate the transportation contract with First Student. There was going to be a meeting tomorrow with their representative. However, with Mike out of town, we're going to reschedule to next week because Mike wanted to be involved in those discussions. So I'm working to reschedule that meeting. So consistent with what we did at GMS for the security projects down there with the new entryway, the state did reopen the infrastructure fund for additional grant money if we were able to get applications in. So those applications were due this past Monday. So I did put in an application for a project at Campbell High School to reconfigure the entryway to have a more secure entryway on one side towards the office and the other side for staff and students to try and restrict access into the building. That was put in. I think the total on that was $80,000. It's an 80-20 split. So we would have to find the 20% locally. We do have the capital reserve fund, and we do have possibilities to reallocate some funds within the budget to make up that 20% if we're approved for the grant. We also, a couple months ago, we contracted with Winnie Hill Associates out of New Boston to design a new entryway concept for the middle school, to build a canopy and have it be a more centralized entry into LMS. So that you wouldn't use the side doors anymore. You could go directly down the middle and funnel visitors in, have a secured vestibule area where people can be buzzed into the sides of the school, so you don't just get buzzed in and have access to the school. Those estimates came in as well. That project is looking to be about $300,000. That would also be an 80-20 split. So basically, based on the information I have, and it is in with the agenda documents, there is a picture of the middle school project if you'd like to take a look. I have submitted the grants. However, I do need board approval to move forward with these both of these projects if they are approved. So I would ask for authorization to work on these two security projects for the two schools.
I make a motion to move forward with those if they get approved.
Second.
Any discussion?
What fiscal year would that be? This
I would be
year?
looking to get the work completed over the summer months. July,
Okay, so these will
August.
happen.
Yeah.
Quick. Okay.
Would the grant cover all of it or part of it?
80%.
80%. Okay, sorry, I missed that. Oh, there it is. There. Okay.
It's the same. We did the same thing with the new entryway down at GMS.
And that would come from unassigned fund balance.
We would discuss funding. We have the capital reserve fund that we can withdraw from. We could identify funds within the operating budget. We can
It's gonna come from
Roads were
somewhere.
It will come from somewhere that hasn't been necessarily 100% determined yet, but we would identify the funds.
And this is for Campbell.
Campbell and
LMS.
there's
We
two
all know
projects.
how I feel about LMS.
No, we don't.
Yes, you do. Why are we spending all this money on an entranceway when we have campers out in the parking lot?
No.
That's the most insecure place. Worry about kids going in the building, and we've got trailer land out there. Sorry, you know I love you, but
This
it's
is
a
grant. This is grant funding. I can't get grant funding to do anything about.
Okay.
This is a secure. These projects were identified by Homeland Security. And
They
this is
said
an
nothing
This is
about-
an opportunity to get money towards
opportunity.
these particular projects.
To get
Will they ever give us
$300,000.
money to get trailers out of the parking lot?
Not
They
yet.
don't think that's a problem?
When
Let's
that
have the
grant
governor
becomes
here. We can
when that
discuss
grant
it,
becomes
yes.
available, I'll be first in line.
And I'll be right behind you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Go forward with the projects and hopefully. we
Can you
get the money
add
from
a-
the state.
Maybe you can add like a pathway, like a little fun tunnel, so they don't have to run in the parking lot.
They don't have to run across the street.
Yeah, with no coats on. That's secure. I'm gonna write a letter to Homeland Security now.
There
In my
you go.
spare time. I'm gonna write that down.
Anything else, Bert?
This is not
I've
your
also
spare
in the
time.
packet. I just
This is my spare time right here.
So if anybody has any questions on any of that.
Thank you.
In the governor.
So that will bring us to our second read of IHP, class size policy. Do we have any
So
questions?
just to summarize from last time, we basically just added the chart at the bottom and then we changed
Mhm.
what was it, the
Kindergarten.
kindergarten up one, right?
From 20 to 18.
2018. And this goes hand in hand more or less with
Yes.
looking for that fifth grade, not fifth grade, fifth kindergarten class.
I think the 18 is in line with our peer cohort. We looked at those numbers last time. Our peer cohort had and the state average, I think Mike said, was 16 students per kindergarten class.
Yeah.
So a policy of 18 isn't unreasonable. I think it's better for the kids and for the teachers too.
It's a state average 20 for third grade.
Yeah. Did you think it should be higher?
I'm just in a feisty mood
I
today.
guess so.
Well, my kids one of them turned out fine, and there were 22 kids. There were 22. He had 21 and 22 kids in his first, second, and third grade
Right.
class.
Well, this is a strive for number.
What happened to the
You
other
all
one?
know I love the other one.
Any other discussion?
No.
So is there a motion to accept policy IHB as written?
As a second reading?
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Excellent.
16 kids in the third grade class.
Haven't even seen the manifest. Did you have any manifests? You did.
I think they all have 3 signatures.
We're all set.
Okay.
We'll check on that. There we go.
That'll bring us to public
too.
input once again. So, anyone else? No one? All right. With no one for public input, we'll go into a non-public. RSA 91A:311. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or disciplining of such employee with the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected one has a right to the meeting, 2, request that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. The hiring of any
Thank
person as a public employee, matters which are discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body itself unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.